Hi, I'm Tom Fitzsimmons, Program Director and Morning Show host from KNCO News Talk 830. Welcome to Inside Nevada County. Nevada County has lots of blessings, but one of its best blessings are the people that work at the County of Nevada. Inside Nevada County, we'll be meeting some of these people and the departments that work for you here in Nevada County. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Paul Cummings. He's Nevada County's Office of Emergency Services Program Manager, which is a big mouthful, Paul. First off, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Tom. Happy to be here.
And it's great having you as our first guest, because if anybody's had to deal with COVID, I would think OES. You guys have been dealing with COVID the entire time. What's it been like?
You know, I tell the folks in my office, Tom, it's COVID has been like a marathon, right? For all of us.
Yeah.
It's not a sprint. We have to pace ourselves as we work through this together. In the Office of Emergency Services, we've actually been partnering with public health and a lot of other county entities to try to lead the community through this very challenging time.
Anything prepare you for COVID and all the demands it had for the county and the OES department in particular?
You know, I think the best thing that we had going for us was our teamwork and our partnerships. Really, relationships is what got us through COVID.
All right. Now, a lot of people want to grow up and be something. They want to grow up, maybe be a fireman and stuff. Did you always want to grow up and be an OES guy?
I didn't. I wanted to, I saw Top Gun and I wanted to fly airplanes, so I joined the Air Force.
You joined the Air Force. Okay. Now, where did you serve? First off, thanks for your service.
Thank you, Tom.
Where'd you serve at?
So I've been all over. Came into the Air Force in 1997, was an air traffic controller for 10 years, and then went on to fly airplanes. So I've been all over, one end of America to the other, which was a really incredible experience to see our great country and live with lots of great Americans and work. And then I also served overseas, so been on 7 overseas deployments, and eventually my career landed me here at Beale, and so I'm a retired Beale Airman.
Beale Airman. How many years did you serve?
22 and a half.
22 and a half years.
That's right.
All right. What was the best part about being in the Air Force?
You know, I have a lot of great stories. I met a lot of great people. I think the Air Force really instilled in me some core values. But I think the experiences I had flying airplanes and supporting troops on the ground overseas was probably the best thing I've done.
All right. Now, since you lived worked at Beale, did you then translate it, just work up and live up in Nevada County?
I did. So since I've been in this area for about 5 years, and so when I initially moved here, when the military moved me here, we settled in Penn Valley, which has been a really great community. In fact, the entire county of Nevada has been an entirely welcoming place to live and be. My kids go to school here. We engage in all the local sports and activities, and I'm actually on the county search and rescue team, and it's just a great community to be part of.
County search and rescue team too?
That's right. I try to make time when I can.
Wow. Okay. So let's see. So Dad, OES, County Search and Rescue.
That's right.
And stuff. All right. So you have to be organized.
I try to make good use of my time.
All right. What drew you to the OES position at Nevada County?
So in my military travels, I was actually stationed down in Biloxi, Mississippi for Hurricane Katrina. So that was a very challenging time. I was actually there when the hurricane came through. My wife at the time and I, we lost everything we owned.
Wow.
And we had to live there and support that community, not only as residents, but as military members. And so that experience really kind of piqued my interest in this emergency preparedness, community readiness. And as I was transitioning out of the military, I thought, I think this would be a good fit for me.
Wow, that's pretty incredible stuff. Now, with OES, for people who don't know, can you explain what OES does? Because a lot of people, I shouldn't assume people know what OES does. You guys kind of coordinate a whole bunch of different things.
We do. Thanks for helping make that clarification, Tom. A lot of people think that the Office of Emergency Services is 911, and that's not what we do. There's first responders for that, fire and law. What we really try to do is prepare the community for all hazards. So we're preparing community members, and we're doing internal preparations and coordination for things like dam burst, failure, wildfire, which is our greatest threat.
Yeah, and of course, Jones Bar Fire. Let's talk about the Jones Fire.
Sure.
That was pretty remarkable how it happened. Where were you when the fire broke out?
I was at my house asleep. I got a call from the deputy in my office about 5 a.m. that we had a fire, and our team sprung into action.
All right. When you spring into action, what does that mean?
So within our office, we lead a team of folks that are in the Emergency Operations Center, which is centered in the RUD Center. And what that team of folks do is provide support to the incident command and to the fire and law folks that are actually out putting water on the fire and evacuating residents. And so we do things like back them up and send code red messages out. We were setting up all the shelters, if you recall. We had close to 15,000 residents who'd gotten an evacuation warning or order message. So we make sure people have a place to go. We were doing things like coordinating transportation, food, things of that nature to really just take care of those unmet community needs in the moment.
I thought what was very exciting to see after hearing about things like Code Red and the technology and dashboards and things like that it was put into action. It seemed to work well from the news side, us trying to glean information and pass it on to listeners. How did it work for your side?
Yeah, I think that's another great question, Tom. I think that the community really came together and they leveraged all of those tools, right? So these are things that we've been building upon over the years, teaching people where to get trusted information like KNCO and KVMR, Ubinet, the Union Online, signing up for Code Red, calling 211 if they need information. All of those tools came together. Code Red, we sent close to 15 Code Red messages, letting people know it was time to evacuate or it was time to come back. So all of those tools together worked like many different safety nets where there wasn't one silver bullet to get that message out to the community. Because you can imagine, it's early morning.
Yeah.
Telecommunications are a challenge in our community on a good day.
On a good day, exactly.
There was a couple of power outages associated with that fire and the weather that was in the area that day. The fact that everyone did get the message and everyone got out is a testament really to our community and to the community preparedness.
All right. So something for your staff too.
For sure.
Can you talk about your staff a little bit?
Yeah, I work, so we have a team, not only our Emergency Operations Center team, which is made up of county staff, but we have a deputy in my office who focuses on leading the Emergency Operations Center team. So we have a great partnership with the Nevada County Sheriff's Office. He's also our evacuation subject matter expert because Nevada County partners with the Sheriff's Office to really make sure that the evacuation mission goes smoothly. We also have a team of folks who just help with that big lift of community outreach, organizing community events where we go out and talk to the public, or events like the Green Waste events that are coming up in May and June, or events like this where we get together and we try to carry that message of readiness to the public. And then lastly, I want to recognize our Defensible Space Inspector team. So we do also manage the Defensible Space Inspector program within our office, which really focuses on community education. We will come out to where you are and try to help you make your home and your roadways safe by reducing that hazardous vegetation fuel load so that should a fire come through, you're ready.
All right. I just got dizzy just trying to follow that
Sure.
because that's so many different areas that you're juggling. Do you ever feel like Ed Harris, like in Apollo 13, like the world's kind of spinning around and you're like have to be almost extra calm when it's happening that way?
It does feel like that, but I think, again, we have good training and good people that we can lean on, and I feel confident that just like we got through the Jones fire, that we'll be ready for the next event.
All right. I know you have to be ready for every event, and COVID has been incredible how it's changed a lot of attitudes in Nevada County and stuff.
Sure.
And I have to admit, sometimes people haven't been as cooperative. Sometimes they've been combative, distrusting. Has it affected anything at OES in your department and stuff as far as outreach to people?
Sure.
And being trusting?
Yeah, and I know that COVID has in many ways divided the community.
Yeah.
And our message is we still have the wildfire threat that I think we should still come back around, right? So we still need to work together against that threat, which doesn't see color.
Yeah.
It's going to cross all lines, and it could threaten all of us, right, in our community. So we've really tried to not let COVID stop us in what we're doing. We've tried to be like water, as Bruce Lee would say, that water that goes around the rock, that's us. We've tried to take our message of preparedness to the public through social media, through video opportunities. So we're still meeting periodically. We're still pushing out our messaging. We're sending people things in the mail. And we're still trying to get out there as much as we can to keep the community safe.
All right. When I say letters like PS, what happens to you?
Yeah, I get a little shiver up my spine.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. That's just another threat that we've had to adapt to, right? Just like
It's been an
COVID.
incredible threat, really.
It has been. It's affected a lot of people, and it's similar but different to the wildfire threat, and it's similar but different to the COVID threat, right? There's some things that we think our office likes to tell folks that you can do to still be ready for all of these, right? But PSPS is something that we've had to deal with over the last year and a half. I will credit PG&E that they've really worked over the last year. So 2020 looked a lot different than 2019. They worked to reduce the footprint and the duration of those outages, but there's no guarantee that 2021 will look like 2020's PSPS, right? So we as residents need to all prepare ourselves and our families for that next PSPS season.
Yeah, and it's gonna come back.
It's going to come
right?
back.
We're totally sure of that.
And PSPS and fire weather go together, right? PG&E is going to turn off the power to protect their infrastructure so that it doesn't start a fire. So on those days when you have red flags and fire weather watches, you're going to also, you're already in a position of weakness where you have to be ready for wildfire. Now we have to add to that your cell phone may not work, your landline may not work. So what safety nets are all of us going to put in place to protect ourselves and make sure that we're ready to get that notification and that we're ready to take care of our families should a wildfire come through?
All right. How's the county doing for notifications? Now that I think about it, whether it's code red, have we done well as far as the amount of people signing up?
We're doing pretty good. We've got about 40% of the county signed up. We want to continue to grow that. So we're constantly pushing folks to sign up for Code Red. We're pushing that message. We do have a big test that we do annually where we Code Red everyone who's been signed up. But again, that's only going to reach the people that are signed up. So I would ask our viewers today to check in with your coworkers, your parents, your kids, your friends, and remind them to sign up for Code Red because it just might save their life.
All right. Do you have a go bag?
I do have a go bag.
All right. I don't have a go bag. What can you tell me to make me get a go bag ready finally? Because I have not done it.
So I will tell you, Tom, as a fella who lost his home in Hurricane Katrina, I had to live as an evacuee, and that wasn't a lot of fun. And I probably could have packed a lot better when I went into the shelter for Hurricane Katrina.
Wow.
So you need to consider the first thing you should really think about is, what am I going to have with me if I'm an evacuee? So what do I need to get me through the next 3 to 5 days, maybe a week or two or longer, should my house, unfortunately be destroyed in a fire? So you want to think about anything that you need to support yourself, your kids, your pets. So I have 2 kids, so I pack their clothes. They each have their own little go bag. Medications, non-perishable foods, hand crank radio, flashlight, anything that you need to, again, support yourself and your family comfortably. And this is the time of year that we want to remind folks to go back and check that go bag. My kids' clothes that are in their go bag, it's not going to fit them this year. I'm going to have to put new clothes in there for them, right? Things like that we need to think about.
I have to get better on it because, that's very powerful knowing that you had to go through Katrina. But we had our own Katrina, probably, you could say, with the Paradise Fire.
Sure.
Camp Fire wiped out a town that looks very similar to the Grass Valley, Nevada City area.
Sure.
Does that have a big imprint also on OES with our local services here? What happened there?
I think it does. I think that the Camp Fire not only affected how we prepare the community from a governmental perspective, right? Things that we're doing, the County of Nevada has increased its budget and support of the community and our efforts in our office, which, we're very thankful for. We're constantly growing in that way. But I know our residents are much more engaged and focused on wildfire. More than 90% of our residents in the entire county live in a high or very high fire severity zone. So if you look at the CAL FIRE map for the entire state, there's a lot of red and orange here in Nevada County. And that's because of our topography and our fuel load. We know that fuel moistures are really low this year. We're in a drought, and if you look at the fire weather that we've seen over the last few years, it's just been increasing. And so, I think I mentioned before off camera earlier that the top 5 worst fires that the state has seen, that the CAL FIRE puts out a top 20 list. The top 5 of those were last year. So the threat is real.
It is real.
I don't say that to scare the community. I say it with the purpose of preparing the community so that we know, let's be as ready as possible so that when wildfire season comes, we approach it with confidence.
All right. One way to get ready is knowing how to evacuate and where to evacuate.
Certainly.
We live in such rural areas. What's the county doing, and OES in particular, to get people ready to evacuate?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's a great question. So evacuation is really falls to the sheriff's office. That's their mission, but we support them in a partnership. So we've done that last year with some new tools that were tried and tested in the Jones Fire. So we're very thankful that we did have those ready. So we already talked about Code Red. That's how you get notified. We have the Ready Nevada County dashboard. So if you go to readynevadacounty.org/dashboard, you can actually see the fire maps. So during the Jones fire, you could actually see which areas had been issued an evacuation order and warning. So there was updated information there, like code red messages and things that went out. In fact, so many people were on that website, Tom. We had 700,000 hits during the week of the Jones fire.
How about that number?
On that Ready Nevada County.
700,000 hits.
That was the place the community was going to get their information. So that's certainly a tool that we're going to continue to use, that we want the community to be focused on. We also implemented the Evacuation Tag Program, and so I've brought today an evacuation tag that the community can go out to the different fire stations that will be listed in the Ready, Set, Go handbook that should be hitting mailboxes in the next week or two. But they can get one of these tags, and we encourage folks to keep it with your go bag. It's got a wire tie on it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Wire tie that to your go bag so that if you do have to leave, you take this evacuation tag, put it on your mailbox, put on that reflective sign marker, put it on your front door, someplace that associates you and that address, so that when a deputy's coming along, knocking on doors, because that's what they're going to do, they're going to go door to door to make sure everybody gets out, that they know you've already made it out safely. So instead of that deputy spending maybe 5 minutes knocking on your door trying to make sure that you safely get out, that's 5 more minutes that you've bought your neighbor. So you're helping to expedite evacuations by using that tool.
Excellent. That's an excellent tool. Okay. I heard you were in the sports, and I don't know if you're into basketball in particular. I understand OES is in the zones.
That's right.
So I don't know if it's zone defense or what. So what's the zone thing?
That's right, Tom. So we have a new program that this is really the first time that we've had a chance to talk about it publicly, because it's so new. So we have this program called Zone Haven. It's a zone-based evacuation system. And this is a program that is actually being implemented in other counties. So it's not just Nevada County. In fact, Yuba County is using Zone Haven.
Okay.
And what it does is it chops the county up into little puzzle pieces. And so you should be able to go out to our website, readynevadacounty.org, and follow a link and see what that puzzle piece looks like. And you'll see these strategically created evacuation zones. And so what this does is it makes law enforcement's job easier when it's time to actually initiate evacuations. And it makes our job easier as residents, because we can clearly know if we are affected by that evacuation. So it's important for you to memorize the evacuation zone number for where you live,
Okay.
where your kids go to school, and where you work. So that when we push a message on Code Red, and we post it on our website, for instance, and it says evacuation zone EC021 has been evacuated, I think, oh, well, that's where my kid's school is. That's important to me, right? So it's separate from Code Red, but these systems are complementary. This is another safety net that we've created to try to make evacuation more expeditious and really protect the community. So you sign up for Code Red,
Right.
but you got to know your zone.
Got to know the zone.
That's right.
All right. So let me get this right. So you say your kid's going to Bear River High School, they're down playing a baseball game. That's a certain zone. You might be working in Nevada City.
That's another zone.
That's another zone.
Yep.
And grandma might be in Truckee. Another
Yep.
zone. I mean, is that included too? The Eastern County?
Yep, all the way through. So Nevada City, Grass Valley, Truckee, all of the unincorporated parts of the county are all divided up into these zones. And these zones weren't created arbitrarily. They were created in collaboration with all the law enforcement and fire partners from all of those jurisdictions. So yes, depending on where your family lives, everyone, including folks down at the river, will be in an evacuation zone.
And I was just thinking, since you worked at Beale, I mean, and Yuba County, say another county using it, will they kind of be almost interchangeable as far as zone, areas and stuff, as far as knowing that's a Yuba County zone and this is a Nevada County zone?
Yeah, there's certainly different nomenclature and designations,
Yeah.
but it's the same system from the same company. So it should be easy. Again, if you had a relative that's in Yuba County, you could know their zone there too and sign up for alerts so that you know when those zones are active.
All right, so this is happening right now. That's very exciting
It's
stuff.
happening right now to get us ready for the 2021 wildfire season.
All right. For people that want to get going with this, is the website the best place to go, or what?
Sure, readynevadacounty.org, and there's lots of information there, from signing up for Code Red to Zone Haven to where you can find evacuation tags. There's videos on there. I would like to mention another evacuation tool that we have that was used during the Jones fire was the Hilo Siren. You may have not heard it before, or maybe you have. It sounds sort of like a European-style siren.
Yeah, like a James Bond movie. I figured that's why maybe you guys picked it.
That's
It
right.
sounds kind of cool.
It's very different too, so that when you hear it, you know it means
Yeah.
one thing: evacuate. And there were residents who we heard from personally who did not receive a Code Red for various reasons because of the telecommunications infrastructure challenges, but they heard the Hilo Siren, and it warned them to get up, get their go bags, and to get out.
Well, it's been very effective, and we've had a couple of fires, including, like you said, Jones Fire starting at night. We had a McCartney Road fire started at night. Mm-hmm. Very important to have things like that in the toolbox to get people out safely.
Certainly.
All right. What's a good day for the OES manager? What's a good day for you?
A good day for me.
Yeah.
A good day for me is a quiet day where we just do nothing but check emails, and we train, and we get the community ready, and nothing happens.
All right. Paul, I appreciate everything you do for our county, really do, and all the people that work at OES. And I know you guys are always ready, every day, right?
We are 24/7, 365. We're ready.
All right. Again, that's Paul Cummings, Nevada County's Office of Emergency Services Program Manager. I'm Tom Fitzsimmons. That's Inside Nevada County. We'll be right back.
Ready Nevada County is an education campaign designed to help the public have successful outcomes during emergency events. We really focus on a whole host of disasters or emergency events. We want to have a broad spectrum. We want to be prepared for anything, but really we focus a lot on wildfire because we know that's one of the most likely events to happen in Nevada County.
Ready, Set, Go is really built around the wildfire premise to prepare residents to be ready before an event, to move into the set posture when there's a red flag or a fire is near you, and then to go when it's time to go.
Essentially, in its simplest form, it's a 3-tiered community emergency preparedness plan.
I have lived in this house, which we built, my husband and I, 26 years ago now, actually. We selected the hardy plank, the concrete siding, and also the metal roof. Then when we moved up here and heard about the 49er fire, that's when we started to say, wow, this really is even more important than we first realized.
So the 49er fire is one of the most historic fires in Nevada County's history. They figured it changed the laws of the state of California that said this is how you have to protect your home. That came out of Nevada County.
Steve Eubanks came from the Fire Safe Council, and the main thing we needed to pay attention to was the ladder fuels. Planting has been removed from the edges of the house so that it does not touch the house. It was an incredible service from the Fire Safe Council to come out and spend a couple of hours going through this property.
So the ready phase is when there's no immediate threat to you and your family. This is the time when you should be doing education and planning, whether that be training, educating yourself, or accumulating equipment, hardening your home, creating defensible space.
Defensible space is really all about creating a buffer zone between your house and flammable vegetation. We really focus on defensible space around the home, that first 100 feet, but also around the roadway too. Another aspect of the ready phase is hardening the home, and really what that means is making your home more resilient to wildfire.
That's going to be putting the fine-grained mesh around the vents of your home so that embers won't get under your house or into the eaves of your house. That's going to be using non-combustible materials on your deck and around your home. So when an ember storm comes through, it's not going to ignite your home itself.
I currently live here in Grass Valley with my parents. All of us have sleep apnea, so we all have CPAP machines that require power in order to run.
I also use a nebulizer, and that's used to disperse medication that I need to get myself breathing again. When we have safety shutoffs, we have to hook up our equipment to batteries that have inverters.
We have a generator that powers some of the things around the house, but then I obtained a pretty substantial battery from Freed, and it was so easy to go through the process to obtain a battery that I would recommend it to anyone who might have medical needs that require power or really anything. I would highly recommend contacting Freed.
So whether it's a snowstorm or a public safety power shutoff, we really want folks to be thinking about, okay, what are the things I'll need on hand to weather the storm? Do I need to have candles? Do I need to have battery-powered radio? Do I need to have flashlights? So what are the things that you'll need to shelter in place or address the disaster at hand?
So a go bag could be anything. It could be a backpack, it could be a suitcase. It's gonna be something that you put together to sustain yourself, your family, your pets if needed. That's gonna have food, water, medication, clothing, toiletries to get you by for 72 hours. You need to think of your go bag as the only resource you may have. Stores may be closed, the power may be out, so you may have to literally live out of this thing for a 3-day period as an evacuee.
If you are someone with a disability, maybe you have a chronic health condition. For me, I have type 1 diabetes, I have an insulin pump, right? And so that's a critical piece that I need to plan for if I'm gonna ever evacuate or be away from my house, frankly, for any amount of time, right? What we find often is that if people don't evacuate with their CPAP machine, with their oxygen concentrator, with their wheelchair, walker, then it can be difficult on the other end.
My name's Ulysses Palencia. I work in the 211 call center. I'm just a resident of Grass Valley. I have 2 daughters, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. In Nevada County, 211 is available 24/7. So what we provide for the community is information. That could be anything from directions to the resource centers. It can be letting them know where the fire is, if they are themselves in an evacuation center, if it's a fire, if there's any information as to whether their power's coming back on during a PSPS. 211 gets the information that we provide directly from the county, so directly from the Office of Emergency Services. The whole team cares. We're all local community members. We all just want to help.
Welcome back to Inside Nevada County. It's my pleasure to introduce Cindy Wilson, the Public Health Nursing Director for Nevada County. Cindy, it's been quite a year with COVID-19.
It has.
For every nurse out there. So from the community, I want to thank all the nurses. You happen to be the public health nurse. What's it been like just for nurses and in you in particular with COVID?
Well, I think there's been a lot of mixed emotions over this last year. Of course, it's been very difficult and very challenging in many, many ways. It's also been stretching and enlightening, and I think we've learned a lot. I do think that nurses have been on the forefront of fighting COVID-19, both in our community, in our nation, in our state, and around the world. Nurses have been key to keeping people alive, whether that's through things like the prevention efforts of public health nurses, or whether that's the nurses who work in the hospital, helping to take care of people who are actually sick, getting them home so that they can feel better, or even the nurses who've supported people after they've gone home. And for our public health nurses, a lot of it has been on the phone. So we talk to people who have COVID and give them some support, some education, and also some instructions about how to keep themselves safe and the community safe. So that we place them in isolation, basically. And so even that work has been very rewarding, just knowing that that phone connection for some people has been vital to keeping them connected during a time in their life when they're actually nervous and scared and don't know what the future is going to hold for them, but they have a nurse who calls them up and helps them through that time.
I love nurses. I married a nurse.
I know that.
Yeah, so they mean the world to me. Did you always want to be a nurse? Were you one of those little girls that had like little baby dolls and put Band-Aids on them and stuff like that?
I don't think I did. It was more like maybe mid-high school or late high school, but I did go straight out of high school and into nursing school.
Why did you decide to do that, even back then when you were in high school thinking about it?
I think it was just one of those moments where I was thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And considering the options and the things that I was good at, and just really felt like I wanted to be in an occupation where I help people. My mother was a nurse, and it seemed like that nursing was certainly a profession that was strongly associated with helping people, and so I chose that and went into it just straight out of high school.
Did you have a favorite type of nursing that you did? Did you go into like emergency room or labor delivery?
In the early days, I was an intensive care unit nurse.
Wow.
And so I worked in intensive care for quite some time, for a few years. And that is very hard work. To all those intensive care nurses out there, they do a phenomenal job, and it's hard physically and mentally. And there was a point after I had a couple of babies that I thought I'd really like to switch to labor and delivery. So I did that for about 3 years. And then that's all been a very long time ago. Back in the late 1980s, my husband and I moved overseas. And so at that point, I did not have an official nursing job where I went to work every day and all that kind of stuff in a clinic or a hospital. When we came back, it had been quite some time since I had worked as a nurse, and I felt like, oh, if I am at all hireable, I need to return to school. So I went back and did my RN to BSN. So there were 30 years between my graduations there. And as one of the courses that we had to take, it was community health, public health. And the first visit that I went on to see a mom and a baby in their home, I just went, oh, where has this nursing been my entire career? This is what I want to be doing. When I finished that bachelor's degree, Nevada County was hiring, and one of the positions they were hiring for was a mother-baby nurse to go visit in homes. And so I took that job. And after a few years, I was moved into the coordinator for maternal child adolescent health position. And then I got an opportunity to go back to school again. This time it didn't take quite so long, not quite 30 years to get back into school. And I worked on a master's at UC Davis in nursing leadership. And then our director of nursing was retiring about the time I was finishing that degree. And so I was able to take the position of director of nursing. I've been doing that since towards the end of 2013.
What's the best part of your job? Because, well, maybe first describe your job, because public health nursing is kind of a different thing. You kind of touched on part of it, visiting young families,
yes,
and maybe struggling families.
Nursing, public health nursing actually got its start with mother-baby visiting in the housing projects in New York a long time ago. And that's still very much a part of public health nursing, and as are several other programs, including communicable disease control, which of course addressing COVID falls under. But basically my job is I supervise the nurses and the support staff for nurses and all of the programs that we do. And so we have programs that are focused on mothers and babies. We have communicable disease control. We have immunizations. We have a couple of nurses who work with our families who are in the child welfare system. We have some nurses who visit vulnerable senior adults in their homes. And in the recent days, we've also hired on some extra help nurses who are with us for a while. Several of them have retired from other careers, but because of COVID and their expertise, they wanted to come back into the workforce to help us out, either with the case investigations, assisting people who have COVID, or they wanted to provide the vaccines to our community. So we've got a few extra people working for us right now that we don't usually have.
You see, that's the thing about nurses. Nurses seem to step up. I mean, there's something, I don't know if it's part of the calling of being a nurse, but that says a lot for them wanting to step up in COVID, putting themselves on the line.
Yeah, they really have. We've received several telephone calls from nurses early on who said, hey, I retired from a hospital in the Bay Area, now I live here, I really want to help. Our own staff who had retired in recent years were willing to come back into our workforce and help us out. And without them, I don't know what we would have done. And I also think you've really touched on something, which nursing is a calling. I know that many jobs are like that, but for us, it's who we are. It's not what we do, but it is who we are. It is so intrinsic in us that I don't know that any of us could imagine ourselves doing anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the best nurses are that way. But COVID hits.
COVID hits. It hits hard.
It hit real hard, and it seemed to hit pretty quickly. How did it work at the county when COVID happened, as far as what you could do as the county health nurse and your team?
Well, when COVID hit early on, and we could see cases happening in other places, but not quite yet here, we reorganized ourselves so that we could support our communicable disease team. At that point, we basically had 2 nurses who worked on that team, and that was all. And
just 2 nurses?
2 nurses and some administrative support, which is also critical to their work. So not a large team, and we knew that it was going to require all of us, so we invested some time in some training for the rest of us who did not have that expertise in case investigations and contact tracing.
Yeah.
And so our lead communicable disease nurse was able to train the rest of us to get us ready to develop some forms and some communication tools and some guidelines and instructions, some of which came from the CDC or the State Department of Public Health. But we were able to collate those into little packets so that as cases started coming in, we could assign those to various nurses and not just have two, which was critical because two's not enough.
And yeah, because that included Eastern County too, Truckee area and stuff?
Yes, we cover the whole county. All of our programs cover the whole county.
Because if I recall, when COVID first hit, it seemed like it hit up in the Eastern County first with more cases, right?
It did. And at first, it was mostly people who had been away traveling. So
That's
people
right,
who
okay.
came back, they had been overseas in particular, and then when they got home, they were ill. And it didn't take very long before, the cases started increasing. But the early days last year, it was more related to travel and maybe then transmission among small groups of family or friends. And then about June, we got to the end of May, the holiday of Memorial Day, and we began to feel like people are tired of the lockdown situation. They are not going to maintain the precautions that we've asked them to maintain, and we're probably going to be in a little bit of trouble come the middle of June.
Yeah.
And that's pretty close to what happened. About the middle of June, it started really rising, the number of cases that we were seeing every day, and that continued to happen with, over time, it just a little more, and then it was pretty steady most of the summer through October, and then November, we really saw a huge increase in the case count. I know I had been away from the office for about 3 days and came back, and we were experiencing our highest case counts ever kind of towards the middle of November. And at that point, I think we all felt very challenged, very scared of what was going to lie ahead of us, because we could see that increasing case counts, particularly when we started seeing the older population, those senior adults being impacted, we knew that they were more likely to have a poor outcome. And then sure enough, somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks later, we started seeing more people dying from COVID than we would ever like to see.
With the deaths is one thing. Were you surprised on the anger that was out there? Kind of a feeling from the public that they were almost distrusting of what they were hearing about information? When you're a public health nurse, I'm sure that kind of hurt.
I feel like I am a very trustworthy person. And so for people to not trust me does have a feeling in my heart of a little bit of pain and sorrow, and how can I help people to trust what I'm saying that's based on what experts are saying throughout our state and throughout our nation, and begin to accept that this is based on evidence. It's not just stuff that we make up out of the air, and that if people would actually listen and do some of the public health measures that we've asked them to do, we would really see a decrease in our case counts, which would result in fewer hospitalizations, and ultimately we would have fewer people die. And the idea that it has become very divisive and political, it really makes me sad. It hurts my heart. It makes us all feel bad that we are not able to reach our community in a way that we want to because of the divisiveness that has come about through this. And it is a little flabbergasting, I guess is a good word, that has become so political.
I will say this, one thing as far as being in a news department, but also as a citizen of Nevada County, Dr. Scott Kellerman joining the team.
Yes.
It seemed like he had the boldness to care, come across as caring, loving, nurturing in fighting COVID. And I think right away kind of calmed some people down. Not everybody, I'm not naive to that. But it just seemed like it really put us in the right direction coming out of this, at least going to come out of this. How did it feel from the nurse's point of view to have him be part of the team?
Well, those are great strengths that he has. I think he really focuses on relationships and collaboration and partnership, and those are his big strengths. And I think this year having him on board, that has been a good part of public health that has grown under his eye as our public health officer. And I think he likes to share with members of our community about things that can help them to stay safe and healthy. And he's really out there in our community doing that on a regular basis.
All right. One thing, if I recall, that you did with your department was to get out to seniors. I know seniors have been shuttered, for this year. And there's hard to reach seniors. You made a distinct effort to get vaccines out to them. How did that all work?
So, of course, one of the lenses that we look through in public health all the time, not just during COVID, is kind of an equity lens and trying to make sure that people have access to health care and to being healthy, no matter who they are, every resident in our county. And so we knew right away that if you have an online registration system, that's going to reach a lot of people, but it's not going to reach the hardest to reach people. And so we began to ask a few questions and discovered that, yes, there were quite a number of seniors in our community who were really going to have trouble getting a vaccine. And so the state was talking about strike teams and what they could do. And we thought about it for a little while and we said, let's call our team the REACH team.
I like that better
it's
myself.
It's a little better, right? It doesn't sound like we're going to come attack you.
Yeah, especially with the atmosphere we were just talking about.
Yes, and so it is an acronym. It stands for Resources for Equity and Access in Community Health.
Okay.
And so we have a group of nurses who are on board to work on that team giving vaccinations. And of course, they give them in our office to people who come there, but they've also been very proactive in finding those harder to reach populations. So they've been to some of the independent living facilities. They've been to some of the senior mobile home parks and some of the senior apartment complexes. And they've also collected names of people who are homebound and cannot get out. And they've gone those places where people are to give vaccines and make it easy for those senior adults to be protected from COVID, at least during this time of vaccine availability. So they've done a great job.
Can you share some reactions from the nurses that gave the vaccines from the residents that got it?
I think that, let me back up just a little bit if that's okay. We had a couple of students from Samuel Merritt University who in the fall semester worked with us, and they did a flu vaccine outreach at one of the senior adult mobile home parks. And so when we got ready to launch our REACH team, that had been very successful. The residents appreciated it. The mobile home park manager was very amenable, very helpful. And we said, well, we think that could be successful again. Let's contact that particular group. And so we did. And they were able to set that up. It was very well organized. And so I think when they got out there and it was a success from that very first day, and people were so thankful and so grateful to have somebody come to them and bring that vaccine that we'd all been waiting on for a very long time at that point, to just bring it to them. They set themselves up in the community room, but there were a few residents who couldn't even get there, so they went into their homes and were able to give them their shot in their home. And then because you need to wait for 15 minutes since it's a new shot, getting to know people a little bit while they sat there and made sure they were okay for that first few minutes. And I think the nurses, as much as it feels like giving to be a nurse, there is also a lot of reward in that appreciation that patients have, and especially when you as an individual or you as a team are going kind of above and beyond what the requirements are and really reaching out to people and helping them in a way that maybe nobody else is even thinking about or doing.
All right. You know, they talk about this light at the end of the tunnel. There was one point it does seem like a train, maybe about
for
6 months ago. But lately, it does seem like we're coming out of this. There's a feeling of optimism. Do the nurses have it? Do you have it about coming out of this?
I think we do, and I think it probably started with the vaccine, because about the time we were seeing those cases really intensify and we were starting to see people die, we were hearing the vaccine is coming, and then the day it arrived, we were just almost giddy dancing in our department, and we all wanted to see, and before it got put in the freezer, everybody had to go look. And I actually brought one of the little vials of Moderna vaccine with me. It's an empty one. But it just represents that hope. We looked at it and we said, those are vials of hope, that we are seeing that light at the end of this tunnel that we've been in for a year now. But this is what is going to get us out of that tunnel. This is the vial of hope that we're going to use.
We do have people who are hesitant about it.
We do.
Right? If you could say something to them right now, what would you say to them as far as taking the step and getting a vaccine?
I think there's several important things to consider, and one is that it's going to protect you. And some people, that's enough, and they want to protect themselves. For other people, I think that the motivation is that it's going to protect other people. It could protect your most vulnerable family member, whether that's a senior adult in your life who's homebound, or maybe somebody else in your life who already has underlying health conditions and they need a little more protection. So it's going to protect people that you already know and love, but it is also going to protect our community. If you work in a place where there are vulnerable people, it's going to protect the people that you work with and for, your coworkers. Say maybe you work in a nursing home or something like that. It's going to help protect those residents, but it's also going to protect the community at large. It really is going to take a lot of us, a high percentage of us, getting vaccinated to create that herd immunity or community immunity that we talk about a lot. And so we would like to get there and encourage people to both step up for themselves, but also step up for all the rest of us and protect our community, keep all of us safe, and especially those who cannot, for whatever reason, get that vaccine, that it helps to protect them as well.
All right. Do you consider yourself a hero? I mean, nurses are being called heroes. Huh?
No way.
No?
Not even close.
Do you think some of your staff are?
I do have a cape that has Super Nurse on the back of it that I wear at the flu drive-through, but no, I do not consider myself a hero.
I do. You're a hero. Thank you, Cindy. Again, that's Cindy Wilson, Public Health Nursing Director for Nevada County. You have Inside Nevada County. We'll be right back.
From the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, a new hero will emerge. One who is ready. One who makes sure their friends and family are set. And has the power to go at a moment's notice. This fire season, you're the hero. We are Ready Nevada County.
Welcome back to Inside Nevada County. I'm Tom Fitzsimmons. Proud to introduce Nick Wilczek. He's our Nevada County librarian. And if anybody's got hit hard by COVID, it's the libraries, Nick. People have missed them. People have longed for them. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny. It's one of those things that maybe people didn't think about until they couldn't get into the library and realized, wow, it's a great asset we have. How tough has it been in the COVID world for the library?
Yeah, so it's been difficult for us. We're always trying to do our best to provide community service the best way we can. When COVID started, we closed our facilities to keep everybody safe, and we were able to move to online services really rapidly. So, a lot of online programming, electronic events, etc. And people could call and put books on hold, and we'd bring them out to your car for you, or you could pick them up at the front desk there, at the front door. But people have really missed coming into the library. Folks miss connecting with other people. Kids love being in there, running around, making noise. So it's been really wonderful that we've been able to start opening back up. So on the 7th of this month is when we started letting people back in. And we've been hearing great things from people. Really happy to be back. You see the smiles. I get to walk around and talk to folks. Yeah. Just been great. I'm a community servant that I've lived here for 10 months. And so I've not really had a chance to meet the community all that much yet. So it's been wonderful seeing faces I don't recognize and kids and just watching folks back into the library, thanking us for being there.
What did it mean for the morale of your staff just to have it back open?
Yeah, staff, we have such a dedicated staff and they love people. Which is fantastic for library staff. Like you hope that, So no, it's been great. Like, you always, when there's a big change, we've been closed for almost a year that the facilities had been closed. So we decided to bring the public back in. And staff have loved it. Everyone's had a blast talking to folks again. I love hearing people catch up, hearing each other's names. It's like friends that you hadn't seen in a really long time. And so, I think everyone at the library, it's really been maybe kind of rejuvenating in a way. It feels totally appropriate to be jiving up with spring. And it's been really fantastic. It's brought a sense of, it's always been fun at the library, but it's kind of brought some joy back into it.
How about that? That's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Now, a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up?
Lived a whole lot of places in my life. Illinois when I was really young, and then I lived in Kentucky for, almost 20 years. That's where I went to undergrad and grad school in Lexington, Kentucky. So that's where most of my roots are. I consider that, I consider here home, but when someone asks where I'm from, Kentucky is the easy answer on that one.
Do you remember getting your first library card when you were a kid?
So you've exposed me here.
Okay.
I was not a big library user as a kid. And so, I remember going and checking out some, specific items, but don't really have, that super formative thing of being a library user as a kid, right? I came to it kind of late in life.
Yes, okay.
And so, no, I don't. I remember getting my library cards where I've worked, and as an adult, when I went in before I decided to work at a library and getting my library card there. And as an adult, I was blown away by, all right, cool, this is what the library does sort of thing, because I wasn't a really heavy library user as a young person. I was always bookish. And after college, I started a career in hospitality management.
Okay.
And the library is kind of like this cool combo of both. So you're there, you get to be bookish, talk to people about culture and knowledge, fun. And doing that with this background of professional hospitality is it's kind of jives up all the things I really enjoy.
It is interesting to throw that type of customer service for the community to have the head librarian be that way. That's kind of outstanding.
Yeah, I hope people appreciate that. I really try to think of people as guests in the facility, and we're there to serve you in the way that you want to be served. And so, I love it. I think that training has been invaluable. Customer service training is invaluable.
Here's the funny thing about libraries. When I was a kid, and it was a long time ago, granted. You had to be like a church mouse in the library. It's kind of funny because you're talking about people talking, and I remember people all the time. Does that go on in libraries anymore, or in your library?
That's funny too. We were talking the other day that you are not a library employee until you've been shushed by a patron, right? Yeah, right. It's the way it goes. So library staff are almost always louder than the patrons.
Is that right?
I think so. Behind closed doors, I think most people would admit that to you. But no, I don't know if I've ever really shushed someone in my career. I'll ask you to keep it down maybe, but modern libraries aren't quiet in the way that they used to be. I want to hear kids running around. I want to hear kids having fun. And, I can provide a more quiet area for folks that want to read and hang out and enjoy that sort of atmosphere. I can't guarantee it, though, and it's just not necessarily what a library is anymore.
All right. How many libraries are in Nevada County?
I never know the number right off the top of my head. Six. So, we have Truckee, Madeline Helling, which is Nevada City at the Root Center, and Grass Valley. The Doris Foley Library for Historical Research, the old Nevada County building. We have a location inside the high school at Bear River.
At Bear River, that's great, down in South County.
And then just within the past bunch of months, we opened a brand new facility in Penn Valley. And that facility is absolutely beautiful. So.
Now, I don't really know much. Can you tell me a little bit about that one in Penn Valley? Is it right outside Wildwood, or?
Yeah, it is. And so the prior one, it was in the shopping plaza right there across the street from Lake Wildwood.
Yeah, it was
Wildwood Center.
The Wildwood. I think it was almost like a strip mall building or something that it was in, right?
Yeah. So it was a couple doors down from the Holiday Market, and we have moved into a new storefront in that same strip mall. And so it's twice as big as it was. And we can really start doing full service there now. We've added some staff. And so before it was more kind of a station, which like it's library terminology, which really doesn't translate to the real world, I suppose. But it was more like you'd go in and you pick up your holds, browse a little bit, but there wouldn't be programs or events, that sort of thing. A lot of it space constraint.
Yeah.
And so at the new location, we have a dedicated kids area. There's programming space. There's a community room that people can, that the community members can reserve to use to hold meetings. There's a video monitor in there. There is a beautiful deck outside with nice furniture on it. And then one of the features that is really pretty cool, I'm excited about it, and we're kind of getting the bugs worked out right now. It's a system called Open Plus, and what you can do is you just fill out another application with the library and you get a fob, and just like the 24-hour gym or whatnot, you can pop yourself into the library during closed hours.
You can?
Well, you will be able to. Wow. It's almost set up. So. Yeah. So we can build the criteria. So say we only want to allow that from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can come in, you can read the paper, you can do your thing, and then an announcement will come on saying the library's closed, you got to go. And it was really cool. I've never worked at the library with that before, but I'm really excited to see how that works. And then you couple that with our new library mobile app, which is amazing. That's maybe my favorite library product I've seen in many years.
I know nothing about this.
So
this is amazing.
Yeah, you basically have your phone, you have the library in your pocket, right? So you're already signed into your account. You can link to our streaming services. You can go right to the library catalog and place holds. Find your nearest location, their hours and directions. It links to our event calendars and all of our social media. And then, that's not even cool compared to the best feature that we just rolled out. So you could walk into the library and pick your books up that you wanted, your movies, whatever, and just zap them with your phone and be on your way.
Not be checked out?
Checked out on your phone. Do it yourself. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And it's nice because it allows staff then to really have the time to interact on a personal level with people who are looking for that kind of experience. So you go to the grocery, you've got the folks that hit the self-check and you got the folks that wait in line and want to talk. And so I think it really improves both of those services in that the folks who just want to kind of do their thing and be on their way, cool, we got you. And folks that want to chat, we got more time for that.
When did libraries get so cool?
Since I started here.
Is that when?
No.
That's only 10 months.
That's so nonsense. So I think libraries have, I want to say we've always been cool, and that's probably not true.
That's not true. No, I think it's the shush me. Come on now.
I don't know, maybe the past, 20 years-ish, I would say that, the notion that it shouldn't be a quiet warehouse for books, I would say has kind of gone by the wayside largely. There's a notion of a 21st century library, and that's kind of what we've been talking about. It's modern. It's more than a warehouse for books. Has programming, has events, just the different tech options, and so it's really kind of about
different tech options, maybe.
So you could go and do a 3D printer, or we've got virtual reality at some of the locations that moves around. There's options like that. And I think it's pretty fantastic.
How many people, of course, we've been in a COVID world, so this probably is a fair question.
Yeah.
How many people you anticipate using the 3D printer? I mean, is that a very busy piece of equipment, or I'm very naive about it, so I don't even know how to use it.
Sure. So the one we have now is very much, I think, more of a demo.
Okay.
Kind of thing to show people how it works. The general idea behind it. Can't answer the rest of your question. I haven't seen people use it. And I don't know if it's the kind of equipment, I've worked at another library system where you could email the library the thing you wanted 3D printed, and they would 3D print it, and then you could go pick it up. So we're not there yet, but there are lots of things that can be done with the 3D printer.
All right.
Yeah.
I know one reason people are excited about libraries being open. Kids have missed it. Kids have fallen behind with school.
Yeah.
Just even the basics of reading, just the formatics of it and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything extra the library can do to get kids kind of caught up and maybe re-embrace reading, for lack of a better term?
Sure. So the first thing, I want to give it up to our youth services librarians for the work they've done over the past year engaging with kids. So online live story time, tailgate story time, let kids pull up, sit in the back of their cars. Librarians are out there, outside, reading stories to kids, running around, all sorts of things like that. So I'm really proud of the work that our youth services librarians have done, staying engaged with kids and families over the last year. So right now we're getting geared up for our summer learning program. So we have tons of programming around that's being developed. And another thing to help keep the reading going, parents can call in to the library, and this has been over the past year. You could just call in and say, hey, my kid's into dinosaurs, whatever. Dinosaurs, because it's a gimme. Like every kid's into dinosaurs,
I'm
right?
into dinosaurs,
Yeah, dinosaurs and Legos.
Absolutely.
So, we would just load up books for you, and you come pick up the pack, and they're checked out. And so you get a librarian kind of curating this collection for your kids that are interested in the topic. We know the topic. We know how old they are. So things like that. And then again, moving forward with the programming we're setting up for summer learning and all that sort of thing is all designed just to keep kids active and engaged.
All right. I know at the Helling Library, there's like this cute little amphitheater got built.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like COVID hit before many things could happen. Is that going to be utilized? Do you see that being back in action? Or does it take certain health settings to make outdoor gatherings like that happen?
So the public health guidance is always changing as new facts come to light and things change. So I feel like we're going to be able to use that outdoor amphitheater sometime this summer. I'm really, don't quote me on it, because I would deny that. So, don't quote me on it, but I think that the COVID situation will allow us to make use of that amphitheater sometime this summer. And I know I really want to, because it was one of the things that really kind of sold me on wanting to take this job here was when I came to visit the county, I went to the Madeline Helling Library to kind of look around, and the amphitheater in any county that put the resources and time into the landscaping at the library that this county does, I knew was a place that I wanted to work and that cared about the library and that was supportive of the library.
All right. Yeah. And this might not be a fair question for you because you've only been here 10 months, but Madeline Helling just recently passed away.
She did pass away.
Have any chance to meet her, or did you hear much about her?
I have heard many, many things about her. I did not meet Madeline, but I've heard many, many wonderful things. I know she touched a lot of people. So staff is kind of putting together a display about her life that will go up at the library. And,
all right.
Yeah.
What would surprise people about what's in the library that they might not know about? Things they can borrow, maybe that aren't even books. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think at one point you could borrow tools and things like that.
So one of the really interesting things we have telescopes.
Telescopes?
Yeah, so there's an astronomy club in Nevada County that got a grant and donated really beautiful telescopes for us that people can check out. I get like tech questions on what kind of telescopes, and they're like, like this big and this big.
Yeah, that's good.
That's kind of
I would say that's good.
Yeah, right. Those are the dimensions. So the telescopes are a thing that you can check out. Awesome. You can check out a hotspot. And so you're at home, you need to do your homework, you just need to get online, come to the library, check out a hotspot, you turn it on when you get home, you got unlimited data, you're ready to rock. I think that's a really wonderful thing that we've been able to provide. And then a lot of folks are unaware of our online resources. And so we have online resources where you can, it looks like Netflix or whatever. Like you get on and you can pick your movies or your TV shows to stream. That's all free, so that's a thing we offer through. There's one called Hoopla, one of the services, and one called Canopy. Those are both free streaming services that you can get through the library. Yeah. And then one of the things that that staff did this past year too, in terms of stuff that I thought was incredibly creative. They would put together like kits at the library that had all the stuff you needed to do a certain craft. Then they would shoot a video of doing the craft and post it on Facebook. And so folks could pick up this kit of stuff, right, and go home and watch this video and kind of do a crafting project along with the library staff.
Wow, that's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, the creativity of staff is like, not to sound corny, which I do frequently. Our staff is like dedicated and creative and fun, and
it sounds like
every day I'm kind of amazed by them.
It seems like they have like a calling for this too.
Yeah.
Just because they go above and beyond.
I think so. Yeah, I think people who are drawn to libraries are people who are just kind of lean towards community service and helping other people, and maybe wanting to help create the community they want to live in.
Yeah. Any big plans for you with the library that you'd like to see in another year, maybe 5 years down the road?
Sure, yeah. So, one of them is just figuring out what we're going to do after COVID, right? What the community is going to look like. Yeah, right. How we're going to best be able to serve the community, and then some bigger facilities kinds of projects. We just worked on Penn Valley. So we want to do some refreshments to the Truckee Library. We're exploring possibilities of a new Bear River facility, and then Grass Valley's really old Carnegie building, so there's work to be done there. So those are some bigger, longer term things that we're working on right now or thinking about.
All right, and of course you're from Kentucky. The Kentucky Derby is knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Do you do anything special with that, being that you're from Kentucky, the Bluegrass State?
So I don't get into horse racing that much, so I don't. But if you had asked me this question about basketball a couple months ago, I would talk your ear off about it. And so the horses I don't get so into. I do love basketball. I like bourbon, and those things are all like horses, basketball, and bourbon are the three Kentucky things,
That's
right?
pretty much it.
And so 2 for 3, I'll take that.
Hey, you're a great asset. Appreciate you being here as the county librarian.
Likewise, I appreciate you being here as our television host.
Nick Wilczek, he's our county librarian, one of the great parts of Nevada County. You've been listening to Inside Nevada County.